Hello and welcome back to the channel. And we left last week with me in a little bit of a quandary as to how to get through the next stage of the project because of the shape of the door frames. I wanted to put a curve on the top rail of the door frames. How was I going to then inset the panels? And I started with measuring out the templates. I'm going to have to cut these anyway for later use. Whether I use them on this project or not, I don't know. And then once I'd cut the templates, I could then cut a test piece to see whether I could work or not. But during the week I've given that some thought, and I could really do with a slot cutter with a guide bearing. That would take care of the round profile of the rail, which then posed the question, do I have one? Do I have a bearing of the right size so that I can maintain that even depth through all of the pieces that I'm working with? And so this afternoon it prompted me to check just what I do have in the router cutter box, and I discover I've got that arbor with a slot cutter. Now the cutter width is actually 6 millimeters. No, it's 6.3. So a quarter of an inch. That will do, but how about the bearing on the top? I can't really judge from here how big a slot or deeper slot that will produce. So what I'm going to do is carry on making the template. Then I can cut a test piece to shape, and then I can test the cutter itself. So that's the plan of attack this afternoon, and we'll see how it goes. You'll remember from last week I started drawing the template, and so I've got the 25 millimeters from each end, which is the offset from the tenon. I've got 25 millimeters from the edge, that's the height of the curve. And going back to my school days, I've discovered my flexible curve. It's as good as anything for producing some sort of curve. So this is just a case of putting it on the piece and adjusting it until it looks about right. Now that has got a distinct flat there, and I want to avoid that if possible. So let me give it a little bit of extra flex. And of course, doing this, I'm going to need to change the bandsaw blade as well, because although I'm marking it out on this, I am actually going to be creating the template on some 12mm MDF, so that will need a little bit extra flexibility on the blade. So that's about right. So just a case of now then, that doesn't look too bad. So I will cut that out after I've changed the blade, and then I can see what happens. In the meantime, let me do this second shorter span as well. Now that's not bad. It actually needed to come this way a little bit because the apex of the curve is there. So it's about 15mm out, that one is. So that's the middle. That's better. There we go. So, don't want that lower one, but I want that bottom one there. Okay, right, let me change the bandsaw blade. And there's the result. Two nice curves, and as I said, that's the first template to see how they went. I'm going to cut those again, but in some 12mm MDF, and that way I can have the bearing follow the the template much better. So that's that. I'm pleased with that. The biggest problem I had was actually getting the tracking of the bandsaw blade working properly, but at least that's cut nicely. And yeah, let's mark up the MDF. And here's the 12mm pieces of MDF that I've just cut the radiuses on, and so that will give the bearing something nice to work with. So if I come down to there or there, for example, so it's going to be about 5mm in anyway, so there's going to be plenty for the bearing to grip onto if this is the way I'm going. So that's the templates. The next thing is just to get the cutter into the bench router, and then I can test how deep it's going to be. So the cutter's in. It's just a scrap piece of wood that I'm using. All I'm doing is testing how deep the slot is going to be. So the vacuum system is connected, and it helps if I plug the router in. Right, how deep is that slot? That is 6mm. Actually, I think I can live with that. It's a width of, yeah, 6.4, quarter of an inch. And again, I think I can live with that as well. Now then, so that is the test piece, and yes, it's a little loose, but I'm not, to be honest, I'm not going to quibble about that. It will give me wiggle room, if you'll excuse the expression, because it'll mean I've got that little margin of error. Okay, so that's going to be the front side of the workpiece, so that will need to come up slightly. Just make sure that's that's the height that I need. So with that, let me think. Now, some of the actual work pieces that's one of the rails for the doors, and so it will be that side, and one of the uprights, and that's the outside. So the channel will come down there. So that's as far as I'm going for this afternoon. I've only just managed to get the stock back into the workshop where I'd left it on the yard. We're in danger of having a sudden downpour, so I didn't want to get the stock wet, so I've had to rush to get this lot in. But we've made good progress. I've got the templates done now so that I can cut the top rails of the doors to shape. The cutter in the router with its bearing will allow me to go around the shape on both pieces, so that's all to the good. I had thought next off it will be cutting the or raising the panels, but thinking about it, I'm not going to do that straight away. I will actually shape the top of the door panels, then I can put them through the panel raising. That way I can follow the contour all the way around and it will look even. So that's first off next time, is shaping the top of those panels, and I can then crack on with the panel raising. That actually won't take too long, so we are making good progress now. At least I can see my way through, and certainly want to say thank you to all the new subscribers that we've had over this last week. We've had another 10 subscribers, well over 270 to the channel now, and I'm very grateful for the comments that Gary and Jim have made with regard to the channel, and certainly appreciate your comments and the support that you're giving to me. And so I'll see you next time, and we'll see how we get on then. Hopefully, he says tongue in cheek, there won't be any more problems, but we'll see. Thanks ever so much. See you next time.